Hi, everybody. Going into chapter 4 this week, we're talking about verbal and nonverbal messages. So let's get right into it. Verbal messages. Clarity and ambiguity. So understanding the difference between being clear and not being so clear, the idea of ambiguity. So using unequivocal terms to avoid misunderstandings. First of all, we have to know what equivocal terms are. Equivocal terms are terms that have differing interpretations, differing cultural values. You may have a term in one particular area where it's understood one way, and then it's understood differently in a different area. To give you an example of a good equivocal term, trying to think of something that would be, just going to pull something up real quick because I'm not thinking of something in terms of my head off the top of my head at the moment. Basically, thinking of something like a pitcher. A pitcher, when you think about it in a baseball term, is a person who throws a baseball, whereas it's also a liquid container. A bit can be a piece of food. It can also be a metal in a horse's mouth. It also can be a computer term. So equivocal terms are terms that have different interpretations or different meanings, and it's something you have to think about. A ring. A ring could be a phone noise, or it can also be a piece of jewelry. So all of those would be example of equivocal terms. So when you're trying to be clear, you want to use unequivocal terms, or you want to explain your terms to make sure that you avoid any types of misunderstandings. Using also, to be clear, is using lower level abstractions. So not being abstract with how you set things up. Low level abstractions are things that are words or phrases or explaining things that leave no interpretation. Like this is how it's supposed to be, almost like instruction manuals. Instruction manuals tell you exactly how things are supposed to go piece by piece by piece. High level abstractions, though, we'll leave things more ambiguous. We'll let people decide for themselves how to think about things. And that's okay in certain situations. But in workplace, you want that low level, this is how it's supposed to be, this is what's supposed to happen, this is what my meaning is. Couple other things. Use slang with caution. Be careful about using slang in the workplace. It's definitely something you want to try to avoid. You want to also use jargon judiciously. Don't use it all the time, but if there's jargon that's in your particular place, which jargon is terms that are used in a particular field of study or work. So things like medical terms, things like terminology you would see in the law and things like that. To save time, sure, use it. To add credibility, sure, use it. But avoid using it as a buzzword. Avoid using business buzzwords. Things like synergy, productivity. Those are words that end up becoming sort of lost because their meanings have been overused and overused. So it's okay to save time and add credibility, but don't just throw it out there just to throw it out there. Sometimes you will use strategic ambiguity. You'll be ambiguous for a reason. So you'll be more vague for a particular reason. It could be to promote harmony. Maybe you don't want to be specific because you want to try to make things a little more harmonious. It can soften difficult messages, making the blow a little better to take. So sugarcoating is what we sometimes also call that. And to make a point indirectly. So making it seem like trying to make a point to somebody but not doing it, making them think about it rather than actually telling them, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Sometimes people learn better that way, and you need to have strategic ambiguity there for that. You want to choose your optimum degree of powerful language. There are types of less powerful language. There is doubting language. And I always tell people this when they're doing a resume or using a cover letter. Whenever you write a cover letter, don't write the words, I think I am. Just I am. The word think is not powerful. It's less powerful. You want to try to avoid those less powerful types of language in the workplace because you're trying to put off this view that you are powerful. You are good at this. You deserve to be here. And that's something that's important to think about. Inflammatory language. You want to avoid biased language. Don't be biased in how you approach things. Don't use always the term he when you're referring to a group of people, or referring to a group of people as you all, or not you all, but or you guys. You want to avoid things like you guys. You want to say you all or y'all or whatever you can do to avoid that biased language. And beware of trigger words. Beware of words that can actually trigger a response. This could be profanity. It could be slurs towards somebody. It could be, just even terms, calling somebody stupid. Those are possible trigger words that you want to try to be careful about in how you present your messages. There's also differences in masculine versus feminine language use. Notice I use the terms masculine and feminine. That is terms of gender, not terms of sex. Sex is a biological term, meaning male or female. Gender is a term that we use in communication, in terms that a lot of people use that define the types of communication patterns that you have. And masculine and feminine are two different communication patterns that people have. So feminine speech deals with things like more rapport talk. So dealing with the group and having everybody get together and talk and be together. And expressive. It's using it as an expressive tool, and support. It's very supportive in terms of feminine speech. Masculine speech is more about report. It's about delivering information. It's about getting the information out to people. It's more as an instrumental tool. Communication is used. Giving advice, being assertive in how you present yourself, and also dominant. That's more of a masculine approach. There are women who have a masculine speech style. There are men who have a feminine speech style. This is okay. It's just how people communicate differently. Some gender-related challenges that we face. Be aware that there are two styles. It's okay to switch styles. It's okay to combine styles. You don't have to be one or the other. All of these things are okay. It's okay to be different. And it's okay to switch, and it's okay to combine those styles when it's appropriate and when it's needed. So don't think that you have to be one style or the other. Moving into nonverbal communication, some characteristics. Nonverbal always has communicative value. How you dress is important. Facial expressions are important. Time is important. It's powerful also. It's ambiguous. We aren't always good at understanding or knowing what the actual expression is. We aren't always good about knowing exactly what somebody's trying to get across. So you have to communicate, and you have to get to know each other, and you have to know exactly how that other person communicates, so that you know what type of approach or what type of expression that they are trying to get across. So it is ambiguous as well. Some other nonverbal characteristics. It's culture bound. It definitely reflects culture. It affects your career success. How you dress affects how you're seen in your career. How you look at people has an effect. Whether you smell or not has an effect. All of those things are fit into that nonverbal category. And also, it expresses attitudes. You express your attitude through your nonverbal behavior. You show people what you're feeling like. So some different types of nonverbal communication. You have paralanguage, how you say things. If I say, "Oh, you're doing a great job," you realize that there's some sarcasm in my voice, and it may not necessarily be the truth. When I say, "You're doing a great job," you get something that's a little different. So how you say things has an impact. Appearance, attractiveness. It doesn't necessarily mean how you necessarily look. But clothing can help increase attractiveness. Choosing a good work wardrobe can have an impact on this. Makeup. Men and women, both. I know lots of men who wear makeup. It's okay. It's not a big deal. That can enhance attractiveness as well. Do you necessarily need it? No, you don't necessarily need it. But if you realize, hey, maybe it can help you and get you ahead, there's nothing wrong with working on that. Faces and eyes, facial expression, eye contact. These are all things that are very important. Expressing things in your eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul. Facial expression and eye contact have a major impact on how you're seen nonverbally. In American culture, if you don't show people eye contact, you don't tend, especially in a job interview, you don't tend to get that job. Posture and movement, making sure you have good posture, making sure that you're moving around and it doesn't look completely like crazy. How you set up your personal space and distance can reflect your attitude. If you have a messy desk, that reflects an attitude that you're a messy person. Maybe disheveled, maybe disorganized. It creates feelings. People who come to my office definitely have a different feeling. I have toys and things around for people to play with. It definitely creates a less stressful atmosphere when you come to see me. You can also indicate power with your space. If you notice, a boss probably has the bigger chair, creates more space between themselves and the other people working for them, has the biggest office. So all of those things reflect that type of attitude. Physical environment has an impact. So where you are you in a cubby hole? Are you with another group of people? You see in the picture, you see like it's 4 cubicles, but they're all open. How much open space do you have? Privacy can have an impact. Noise, odors, children can show nonverbal communication. Your children, if they come into the office, people can pay attention to that and go, oh, how are their children kept up? What are types of things to think about there? And illness. How do you respond to illness? That also has an impact on nonverbal communication. Time. Your use of time, variations in cultural use of time. The United States is very monochronic. It's very much, as I said before, about one thing, then the next thing, the next thing. You look at, again, things like Mexico. Mexico's different. Doesn't view time exactly the way that we do, more polychronic. How are you better? How do you get better at nonverbal effectiveness? Monitor your behavior. Always be mindful about how you're presenting yourself. Demonstrate interest in others. Don't be afraid of being interested in what other people are saying. Demonstrate interest in what they're doing. Demonstrate interest in their work. Be positive. Don't put on a negative attitude. And observe conventions. It's okay, to do certain things in certain situations. It's okay to observe how people are reacting and respond in a way that responds to that. So observe those different things. Last thing, sexual harassment. There are 2 types. There's quid pro quo, which is this for that. The idea of this for that is that you do something for me, I do something for you. Not good. Also not good, hostile work environment. This would be looking at videos, pictures, other things like that while you're in the workplace and in the view of other people. So if you're doing it, showing another coworker, that would be in the view of another person. Doing it yourself where somebody can still see you. Say in an open office, that's also hostile work environment. Neither of these is good. Quid pro quo is a little worse than hostile work environment, but neither of these is a good thing to have. How do you respond? You could consider dismissing it. I wouldn't do that. I would say that it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, or else it'll just continue. Tell the harasser to stop. That's one way of approaching it, although I don't necessarily agree that you should have that be the first way to stop it. I definitely think that you need to seek a higher power, either a boss, somebody who has more power, HR, somebody who can deal with that situation. Keep notes. Always keep a written record. Write a letter. You can write a letter to not just the offender, but you can write a letter to HR. You can write a letter to somebody else to help stop the situation. But definitely keep notes. Definitely keep the evidence so that you can show, or you can at least give some sort of evidence that they are doing this, so that you can deal with the situation. Something that's very important. Ask for a third-party intervention, use company channels, and also file a legal complaint. I think those are the first 3 things you should definitely do. Go to HR, use those company channels that you have, and file a legal complaint. I think it's extremely important to do those types of things in a sexual harassment situation. That's all we have for week 4. I'll see you next week. Make sure you're doing the exam, and make sure you get that done this week as well. And I'll talk to you next week.